Hello Lantern Magician, I'm Jay, your guide to cut through the hype and actually master your EOS M. And in this episode we are going to talk about gear.
Alright, you want clarity on gear. You've seen the flashy builds, the rig porn, the endless forum threads. Now you're wondering,
what do I actually need?
I'm here to save you thousands in mistakes, because I made them all. So, what do you actually need? Monster setups don't make real work. The right mindset does. Start here. EOS M body, recommended SD card, 128 GB minimum. Kit lens, perfect for daytime or outdoor use. Optional but recommended, one fast prime lens, f2 or faster 12 to 16 mm for more versatility, 50 mm if you want that bokeh look. Solid tripod, solid mid-tier ND filter for outdoor shooting. Basic power, internal battery works fine.
Done. Everything else is just you finding your voice. Let me explain.
Stop building someone else's rig. Here's the trap. You see a sick setup online and think,
I need that.
Wrong move.
Before you buy anything else, shoot with what you have. Because when you don't, you build someone else's rig for your vision. That $2,000 cage setup works great for the guy who sold it to you, but you might hate how it moves. Add-ons should extend your vision, not lock it in. If you don't yet know how you like to shoot, how you move, frame, or tell stories, you'll end up with gear that fights you. Some shooters love slow cinematic frames. Others thrive on handheld chaos. Some want clinical sharpness. Others embrace motion blur. That preference lives in your head. The camera just extends it. Master exposure, composition, focus, lighting first.
Then your gear choices become obvious. It seems almost like a disease. We're talking low-budget DIY filmmaking, and then what happens?
People chase the cheapest solution on the market, then pile on accessories to make it look pro. They copy what they see online. They build rigs for appearances, not work. Before you know it, you've spent so much on add-ons that a more expensive camera would have been cheaper and far more efficient.
Here's where it gets interesting.
When you actually shoot, patterns emerge. Maybe you discover crash zooms, that aggressive whip-in energy. Suddenly you're hunting lenses that glide instead of twist. Nobody talks about them. They might become your secret weapon. Or you fall in love with ballet. Now you need weightless motion. A properly balanced old-school glide cam beats most gimbals for that floating feel.
This stuff doesn't come from copying YouTubers. It comes from shooting.
Even then, choices depend on resources. Dream of Hollywood crane shots, but don't have $100,000. Build your own. Or shoot in ways that suggest the crane.
That isn't compromise, that is filmmaking.
Quick reminder, don't buy a cage just because everybody else has one. I shot the EOS M for years without a cage, and there was a simple reason for that. Most of the time I was either on a gimbal or shooting talking heads using a simple desk mount setup. In all of those situations, a cage simply wasn't required. A cage becomes useful only when you genuinely need to mount additional systems. Typical examples include video transmitters, so other team members can see the feed, large external batteries, remote follow focus motors. That is the real use case. What I do not recommend for the EOS M is building a big handheld monster rig. Personally, I use a cage only in very specific situations. The first one is self-shooting outside. In that scenario, I often need an external monitor, a larger battery, and clean mounting points. Solo filming always takes longer than you think, so the extra flexibility helps. The second situation, and this is the big one, is tripod work. Without a cage, many base plates block access to the battery door and the SD card slot. With a cage, you can offset the plate and keep full access. For me, that alone is often the most practical reason to run one. Bottom line, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Quick side note about matte boxes, they look cool, and yes, on big productions they have their place. But for beginners, they're often just another gear trap. You start with the cheap one for $20. It wears out almost immediately, so you upgrade to the $100 version, Then you discover the filter trace thing, the swing away mechanism, and suddenly you're looking at multiple $1,000 matte boxes. Meanwhile, all a matte box really does is block stray light. Think of it like a hat for your lens. It basically helps you avoid washed out images and get better contrast in bright light. Interestingly, some filmmakers actually prefer that washed out aesthetic. And let me know, which do you prefer? More contrast or a softer look?
And don't forget to download your free EOS M Blueprint Starter Kit, link below. It's the companion guide for this series, always updated when new episodes drop.
If you watch behind-the-scenes footage of real film sets, half the time someone is literally just holding a piece of cardboard above the camera. Personally, I just use metal lens hoods, a couple of dollars, almost no weight, and for most situations they do the exact same job. No giant rig, no extra weight, and when you're traveling, you'll be glad your camera is still light.
Let me tell you a real-life story.
Flying halfway around the world to shoot a Netflix-style documentary. Full scope, full ambition. I imagined the pro setup. Built the rig, cage, rails, monitor, V-mounts, the full metal jacket. Then I looked at my shot list. Train stations, tight spaces, grab-and-go moments. Reality hit. This rig kills every shot.
Hours before the flight, I tore it down.
I packed minimal, EOS M, gimbal, monitor, second body with kit lens. That combo worked. Airports, stations, tight locations, no permits, no questions. The setup looked consumer level, non-threatening. Security didn't blink. Had I walked in with the cage monster, I would have been stopped or missed the shot. The footage was clean, stable, cinematic. None of it happens with forum flex builds. Let me make one thing clear. You're watching a beginner series, and this camera already forces you to learn a lot of manual skills that most modern cameras hide. So the last thing you need right now is another variable. Vintage lenses sound exciting, but many of them come with problems: soft focus, smeary images, worn mechanics. I tried this myself and bought several vintage lenses. 3 of them either didn't work on arrival or failed shortly after, unless you have access to a lens technician, or you want to learn how to service lenses yourself. It's basically gambling, and trust me, that once-in-a-lifetime bokeh is not going to save your film. For roughly the same money, you can buy brand new manual lenses from companies like Brighton Star, Mickey, or 7 Artisans. Clean optics, sharp images, no adapters, no surprises, and a warranty. So unless you already have experience with vintage glass and know what you're doing,
stay away from the old stuff.
For now, you can always make a modern lens look vintage in post, but you can't make broken glass look modern.
Battery life. Honestly, surprisingly good.
The EOS M runs almost an hour on a single battery, even longer with third-party 2200 mAh cells. Power down between takes, and it can last half a day. That's a huge advantage over cameras that die in 15 to 20 minutes. If you're shooting long interviews or live sessions, then yes, NPF, V-mount or AC makes sense. For most projects, a few good batteries and 2 fast SD cards are enough. Quick cold weather caveat: if you're shooting in freezing temperatures, expect your battery life to drop, sometimes to 1/5 of normal. So in serious cold, bring the biggest batteries you can reasonably carry. If you spend any time on forums, no matter which camera, you'll see it all the time.
Here's my first clip.
And a lot of those clips are bad, not because of the camera, not because of the lens, because they're not stabilized. Beginners assume handheld is the default. Why? Because it's cheap. No extra gear, no setup, just press record. But that assumption is backwards. In serious filmmaking, cinema, high-end TV, quality documentaries, handheld is used very sparingly, single-digit percentages. Pro tip: if you absolutely love that handheld, high-energy look and still want to use the EOS M, there is a smart way to do it. What you don't want to do is follow the old forum advice of simply making your rig heavier. By the time that approach starts to help in any meaningful way, the setup becomes completely impractical. There's a far more efficient solution, and I use it regularly myself. We'll get to that in a second. Most shots are stabilized in some way. Why? Because uncontrolled movement doesn't look cinematic, it looks amateur. Yes, there are many ways to stabilize: sliders, dollies, jibs and cranes, motorized gimbals, vest-based rigs, glide cams. All of those have their place. And one more tool that's worth mentioning is lens stabilization. The EOS M kit lens is stabilized, and in certain situations that can be genuinely useful, especially in tight spaces or shooting from a car. In a pinch, it can take the edge off the micro jitter and reduce some of that jello effect. But you still have to move carefully. Think ninja, not action hero. The limitation is control. You can get usable shots, but you don't get the same intentional camera movement or dynamic feel you get from proper support. It has its place. Just understand what problem it actually solves. But the most basic tool, the one everyone should own, is a good tripod. A proper tripod gives you stable framing, intentional movement, controlled pans and tilts, and that alone already puts you in a different league. You don't need the best tripod in the world. In the 150 to 200 euro range, you can get something that's not perfect, but good enough for what we're doing here. And the difference is massive. A stable locked-off shot from an entry-level camera will always beat a shaky handheld shot from a better one. And the best part, once you're on a tripod or any other form of stabilization, 99% of the rolling shutter arguments about the EOS M disappear. It becomes a non-issue. Or let's be precise, a 99% non-issue. Quick question, if you're starting out, what kind of stabilization are you most interested in? And if you've tried some already, which one worked best for you? Now, coming back to what I mentioned earlier, these shots you're seeing here were done on a small gimbal in sport mode, and this is where the EOS M actually works in your favor. Because the camera is so lightweight, you can get excellent results even with affordable lightweight stabilizers. Smooth motion, clean energy, judge for yourself.
Let me show you how powerful a minimalist setup can really be.
What you're seeing here was shot on the exact same setup we talked about at the beginning. One EOS M, one lens, one tripod, ND filter, natural light, no crew, just one operator, and the talent. If you've ever wondered how shots like these actually come together, from location and talent direction to my full Magic Lantern post pipeline, the missing manual walks you through the exact workflow I use on real paid work, link in the description. Bottom line, learn the tool, find your style, let vision guide gear. Until then,
ignore the noise. Build the shot, not the rig.
Next episode, your computer setup. What do you really need to edit Magic Lantern RAW? What specs matter? And what's marketing nonsense? Can you survive on a weaker machine? Short answer, yes, with the right tricks. If your laptop wheezes every time DaVinci opens, this one's for you.